I'm sick and tired of constantly talking about the same things over and over again when it comes to Turks and being nationalists, okay? There's a lot of people that go out very easily, point the finger at us and say you're a nationalist. Most of them are hypocrites. Most of them have got some type of jealousy problems, all right? Their countries are in ruins. They have extremely bad leadership. You know, they live in the cave times, the Stone Ages, and they look at us, Turks, being proud of our history. There's nothing wrong with that. Being proud of our people, there's nothing wrong with that. Loving our culture, nothing wrong with that. A nationalist is someone that puts country before God. A nationalist is someone that says, I'm better than you because I'm Turkish. That's a nationalist. That's the end of discussion. Now, the problem we have, Muhammad Hijab, and he's probably one of the only ones that I can think of lately that constantly comes out and puts nationalism with Ottoman history. Like he knows Ottoman history. Muhammad Hijab, brother, I need you to be quiet for a minute, all right, and take a little bit of lessons from a Turk. You know nothing about Ottoman history. It's very obvious because you've got to start off with the day Constantinople falls is not 1463, it's 1453, my brother. Okay, now we may get some dates wrong here and there, but it just sounds like what you're saying, you've been practicing with ChatGPT to kind of get your information and come out and tell people what Ottoman history was. The downfall of the Ottomans was not nationalism. That didn't exist during the Ottoman Empire, okay? It's after it became the Republic. Even when Mustafa Kemal Atatürk in 1919 turned against the Sultan. Even when he went to Samsun and said, hey, you know what, I'm starting my nationalist movement, those that joined him didn't join him because they're like, hey, you know what, we're better than the Arabs. You know what, it's country before God. No, they joined him because they had no one else to join. They joined him because he gave everybody hope, saying that we've got an opportunity here to take these lands away from the enemy. There's a lot of things that I don't agree with Atatürk a lot. He was a very bad president. Let me tell you this. The guy couldn't run a country. He couldn't. He paid the debts off. He did some good. So you got to give him credit where it's due. Okay, he paid the Ottoman debt. He created this movement where he made Ottoman generals believe that what he was doing was allowing the empire to survive, the Ottoman Empire to live on. Majority of the greatest generals of the Ottoman Empire passed away during World War I. They became shaheeds, bro. It wasn't easy. World War I was one of the most difficult wars that any country could face, and Turkey faced it. England brought nations of up to 20 different nations and tribes, yeah? You had France doing the same thing, about 12 countries and tribes. Russia, they bring in the Ukrainians, they bring in the Georgians, they allow the Armenians to join them, they allow the Pontic Greeks to join them. Russia on their own was a powerful empire at this stage. We lost 80,000 men chasing them out of the country in winter, and 80,000 of them all died, man. They all froze to death. And the Russians come back, seeing that they're like, you know what, we're not going anywhere. We're not leaving now. Hey, 80,000 were just froze to death. Let's go past them. Let's go give them a visit. Or they're going past all the dead bodies and they're attacking the Turks again. It was a very harsh war. That's why I get very offended when an Armenian brings up something 111 years ago. Like, you know, we did these horrendous acts when they were in our lands attacking us. When they were in our villages where there was no men, burning our villages and hurting our women and our children and the elderly. There is no such thing as nationalism in the Ottoman Empire, my friend. The Young Turks didn't have it. Atatürk during that time didn't have it. It was after. It was when he became president. It's when it became the Republic of Turkey, a complete different timeline. Okay? That's when nationalism started to appear. he started to say, hey man, you know, these dirty Arabs, we don't like them. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change the azan from Arabic to Turkish. There's no more Arabic azan. I don't want to hear Arabic in my country anymore. This is where the nationalism came from. And it wasn't a majority of the Turks, it was a handful of Turks. He got rid of the Ottoman language. He changed it to Turkish so we couldn't go back and read the Ottoman books. So that when we go to schools now, we're taught what he's teaching us. We're taught about how important it is that Atatürk was there and no one else mattered. None of those hundreds of thousands, those millions of lives that fought for Allah, they never fought for Atatürk. He never had control of the complete army. Majority of those Turks fought for God. They didn't fight for national. That's why you need to be careful, bro. October 1923 is when Atatürk abolished the Ottoman Empire, turned it into the Republic of Turkey. All those generals that had belief in him, thinking that what he was doing was to strengthen the Ottoman Empire, he exiled 150 of the greatest general, the greatest men, some of the most powerful Islamic minds around the world that were in Turkey. He exiled all these people. And Fatih Sultan Mehmet wasn't the peak. That wasn't the peak, bro. That wasn't the peak. It was one of the greatest events in Islamic history, but you're missing a couple more, yeah? After Fatih Sultan Mehmet, you had Bayezid II, not the first. Huge difference between Bayezid I, that fought the Crusaders, that fought 18 nations of the Crusaders, a much far larger army than his, double the size, and he destroyed them. And then comparing it to Bayezid II, the son of Fatih Sultan Mehmet. The man that allowed Ismail I, who became a 12er Shiite, to kill every single Sunni leader in Iran, in his lands, and replace them with Shiite imams and Shiite scholars. All right, because up until this point, Iran was predominantly Sunni Muslim. Majority of it was Sunni Muslim. And Ismail I decided to eliminate that. He became this leader, and he did that very fast. He did it in Ottoman lands. He started sending people money, saying, hey, you know what, let's go to some of these villages, these mosques, kill their leaders or force them to become Shiites. He sent his brother, and remember this name, he sent his brother to fight the son of Bayezid II, okay? He had a few sons. I think he had 3 sons, and one of them, Sultan Selim. Sultan Selim, they call him the Grim. The Shiites call him the Grim. This is where the name comes from. Because when Ismail I sends his brother to fight him in Trabzon, because Sultan Selim is now turning around saying, what is going on? I'm not going to accept this. You know, my father, Bayezid II, every time these guys come to attack, he's giving them gold, he's giving them gifts, he's saying, please don't fight with me, we don't want war, we don't want battles. You know, just leave us alone, stay over there, you've taken those lands, that's fine, keep them, but and here's $1 million, keep that as well, just don't fight us anymore. So Selim says a few things, he's not happy, and so Ismail I, the 12th Shiite from Persia, from Iran, sends his brother with an army, and he comes back to Ismail I saying, bro, you had to see Sultan Selim. This man is a grim man. This man is a terrible man. What he did to my army, what he did to my people when he captured them, how he hurt us so bad in battle. He was literally telling his brother all the problems, all the negative things that happened in battle because of Sultan Selim. What a man, bro. What a man. He turns to his father and says, I'm not agreeing with what you're doing. You know, you're not the son of Fatih Sultan Mehmet. I'm the grandson of Fatih Sultan Mehmet. He musters an army, goes in front of his father. It wasn't big enough. Comes back and does this very fast. The reason why he does it so fast is by now, Bayezid II is about to give the Sultanate to his oldest son, Ahmed. However, Ahmed's oldest son, the prince, is a 12er Shiite, openly a 12er Shiite. So Sultan Selim sees this and he's like, I have to be very quick. I've got to do this fast. He goes, gets Janissaries, he gets a massive army. They come behind him as well, the Ottomans. They're like, we don't want this. We don't want this to happen. They go in front of Bayezid II. This time Bayezid II looks and says, man, I can't win this war. These guys are much larger than my army. He gives him the Sultanate. He fights his brothers. He destroys his brothers. That prince that was a Shiite runs to Ismail I and hides in Iran. And the first thing Sultan Selim does is musters a huge army, brings the Ottomans all together, 100,000 plus, goes in front of Ismail, destroys him, takes all the Ottoman lands back, plus takes Persian lands, and then turns to the Mamluks and said, you joined them, you joined the 12 Shiites over us, over your brothers. By this stage, the Mamluks were very weak. Yeah, they had Mecca, Medina, Jerusalem, Egypt. So Sultan Selim goes to Egypt, goes to Jerusalem, takes these cities, and then Alhamdulillah takes Mecca, Medina, and claims himself as the first Ottoman Caliph. Straight after him, you've got Sultan Suleiman, another great sultan. This is the peak. This is where the peak is. Okay, there's no nationalism that destroyed the Ottoman Empire. There's a few things that did destroy the Ottoman Empire. One was when Ahmet the First, I think it was, Ahmet, the guy that builds the Blue Mosque. So whenever you go to Istanbul and you look at Hagia Sophia, right across it, you'll see an amazing mosque. He wanted to build that to show the world that Ottoman mosques and Ottoman buildings are just as beautiful as Romans, or if not more beautiful. Before he becomes the Sultan, Ahmet has 17 uncles that he loves dearly. These uncles, they will go become generals, they will go learn 4 languages, they will go, govern cities. These men were all intelligent, so they were around Ahmed and they loved him. 17, he loved them. 17 of his uncles that were masculine, strong, powerful men. He had to watch every single one of them get butchered by his father when he became Sultan. His father killed all of them. He loved his uncles. His uncles are what made him who he was, what gave him strength, what made him intelligent. And so when he becomes Sultan, he says that there's no more killing brothers. He had a younger brother. He says, I'm going to put him into confinement. So he puts his brother into a place far away from, it's still attached to the castle, but far away, in a room. He's allowed to have tutoring, he can get married, have some kids. And eventually, Ahmed the First, when he's passing away, instead of giving it to his children, he turns to his brother and says, now I want him to come out of confinement and lead the Ottoman Empire. Now, this was a good thing because it stopped the killing of brothers. However, this helped build a decline in the Ottoman Empire. The reason why I say that, we put the rest of their brothers into confinement for a very long time. Abdul Hamid was in confinement for 30 years before he became Sultan. So a lot of them did come out of confinement, surprisingly enough. And some of them were so crazy. Some of them were in there for 50 years. When they put them to become Sultan, the first day they would be hallucinating. Oh my God, someone's after me. Someone's going to kill me. Just imagine being in a place, constantly being watched. You take a step and the guard's watching you and you're not sure if this guard's going to turn on you. You're not sure if today's the day that you're going to be killed. So that had a lot to do with it. They weren't trained. They were stuck in confinement. They were in an area where, they couldn't do too much. They weren't brought up normally. They were brought in fear and they had to lead. And some of these men, when they came into power, a few people that were around them that were being very nice to them, they would bring them next to them as their ministers. They had no experience and they would listen to what they would say. And so they made a lot of bad decisions. The second biggest reason why the Ottomans didn't do well was because they started borrowing money on interest. Islam tells us do not borrow money on interest. They borrowed money on interest, and they borrowed it from their enemies. They borrowed from the English. They borrowed from the French. They borrowed it from the Jews. And this put them heavily into debt. When Abdul Hamid came in, he was in there he was in confinement for 30 years, but he was in power for like 33 years. And he had to deal with all of this. He's trying to pay this debt off. He's trying to stop the Jews from having Israel. He then has an issue, and this is what we're going into the third step of the Young Turks. He sends these men away, hoping that they can go to these Western countries and learn what they're doing, how they're building things, how they're engineering things, and come back with this information to help the empire grow. And they turned on him. He said, if the Muslim world, and this is including Arabs, yeah, if the Muslim world knew that I was in trouble, they would have all come. They would have all come for jihad. They would have all come and eliminated these men that dethroned me. They did it so fast. In his place, they put Mehmet V. So World War I's 1914 to 1918. And then Mehmet VI comes in, a much better man, a man that's not controlled. But by this time, it's just too late. Ataturk takes off in 1919, doesn't listen to him in Samsun, goes and does his own thing, musters his army. And once he beats the Greeks, once he signs a better treaty, so we needed him. As much as I'm not proud to say this, because when I look at Ataturk, I don't want my sons, I've got 3 sons, I don't want them to look up to a man that died because he was an alcoholic. That to me is wrong. He closed down Islamic schools. That's wrong. You don't do things like that. But he signed a treaty, a far better one than Mehmet VI did, with far more of the Ottoman lands. He turned into the Republic of Turkey, and that's where nationalism starts to grow. So it's after the Republic, not during. I want you to understand that, Muhammad. Stop talking about Ottoman history, brother, especially to a young guy like Sneeko. You know, you're messing him up. He's thinking that every Turk is now a nationalist. We're not nationalists, bro. We're Ottoman Turks. All right? A lot of us still class ourselves as Ottoman Turks. We love our history. We know who our great-grandfathers were. So Ataturk wasn't even the worst president when they came. His problem was just drinking too much. He had PTSD. You know, he had the stresses of war. He saw people die. He didn't know how to handle himself. He didn't turn to God. He drank alcohol. And when you drink alcohol, well, you know what it's like, man. You start doing the wrong things. You start listening to the devil. You start doing all the sins and all the things that the devil wants you to do. And this man was in power of an empire, bro, that once lived. So you think the devils aren't going to be louder in his ears when he's drinking? Assalamu alaikum.